Welcome back to the St. Garage and the lifestyles of the broken infamous. Welcome back to the Shade Tree Garage. Previous video, I was talking about shifter knobs, particularly anyone who wanted to make a billiard ball into a shift knob. Welcome back, guys, and today I'm going to continue a little discussion about shifter knobs. Now, in a previous video, I highlighted a fellow YouTube creator's channel called Restoring Christine, where Bill takes a billiard ball that he picked up at some sort of flea market, etc., lucky number 13, and how he converted that into a shifter knob. And he's not the first to have done this. And in fact, I took the easy way out. I went on Amazon. And it was either Amazon, Temu, eBay, and I have wanted an 8-ball shift knob forever, and I went ahead and got one after my 55 Chevy behind me arrived here in the Shade Tree Garage. Now, and of course, just remember, a billiard ball is larger than a standard shift knob, so it's kind of more of a handful. But I like the look and have enjoyed it. And in the last video, I talked about on my last video how quality control may be a little lacking depending on the source of the billiard ball shift knob. Sometimes they may be manufactured out of the country, and you may run into a little quality control issue, as I did. You have a jam nut that actually you use to lock the shift knob in place. For example, if you've got the shift pattern on top of your shift knob, you want that where it's legible and visible and in the correct orientation to the driver. That's why you have the jam nut. And just like with the 8-ball, you want the number on the 8-ball looking at the driver in the proper orientation. Use the jam nut to do that. However, in my case, tightening the jam nut revealed that the brass insert, the threaded insert in the bottom of the 8-ball, was loose. Wasn't super tight as it should be, and so every time I would tighten the jam nut, it would kind of pull that threaded insert out of the pool ball. So I would wind up with a loose knob again. So I realized what was happening. So for a number of months, I simply just tightened it down snug with my hand, didn't worry about the jam nut, and just kept a monitor on it. And the shift knob was always loose, so it never sat in the right orientation. Now, when I would park it at a cruise in or somewhere where people might be checking it out, I always oriented the shift knob in the correct orientation, knowing it was still loose. So anyway, I worked around that until recently when now the 8-ball shift knob, just like a lot of shifter knobs, it may come with some adapter inserts. All right, now this is the business end of an 8-ball shift knob, and they usually come with 3 different size inserts that thread into here that will allow you to adapt your 8-ball to any number of different shifters. All shifters will have a different thread pattern at the top of the shift lever. And the problem was that the insert would tighten up in the shift knob, but the part that the insert screwed into was not tight. Every time you tighten the jam nut, it would pull it loose just a little bit. So anyway, not long after I got back from the Tri-5 Nationals, I decided to fix it. So I ended up working the insert, the threaded insert, pulling it out of the shift knob, and then cleaned it out, enlarged it a little bit, and then epoxied the insert back in place, being very careful not to get the epoxy without getting epoxy someplace it didn't need to be. Well, the JB Weld epoxy I used did a wonderful job, and the thing is solid. So now it's installed in my 55 with the jam nut tight to keep the 8-ball in the correct orientation. Works great. But just be aware, if depending on the source, depending on the country of origin, perhaps, you may get a shift knob with the insert that's not going to stay, you may have to make a few modifications or repairs on it. It's possible. Not necessarily going to happen that way, but it might. So be aware of what you're getting into. All right, and then in this last video, the discussion in the last video also discussed that I had a die shift knob and the problems with that. It didn't have a threaded insert. It had an insert. However, it also came with two nylon fillers that went into the hole to help hold the shift knob lever in. And there was no threading. It just jammed in there. And the only thing that held the your shift knob in place, there's a collar. There was a collar on the bottom of the die that had 3 set screws. And so the only thing that would hold it in place securely were the 3 set screws. And I thought that was rinky dink. It just was. Now the nylon inserts didn't hold it in. It just took up the play from the if your shift lever is smaller than the hole, which it undoubtedly is, given the fact that the die shift knob came with nylon filler pieces to go in there. Well, after I did that video, I thought, I really would like to run the shift knob. So last night, I did what any crafty guy did. I took the shift knob and I drilled out the mount that comes with it. That's got the 3 set screws. And how I did that was I used one of the largest drill bits I had that actually was the same size as the inner part of the insert that had the collar. And I drilled it out until it broke loose. And so I have now epoxied one of my extra threaded inserts into that hole. I had to fill the hole was pretty massive, so I had to fill it up. And I used Scotch-Brite pad pieces and filled that up, added epoxy to it, and then epoxied the insert in. So I've got it all taped up because I had to put this in a vise to drill it. So let's get this. Let me unwrap this thing. I've got tape all over it now just to try to keep from scarring it up and everything else. Right. Well, it looks a little solid, but let me show you. That is the threaded insert that fits my Hurst shifter. But look how large the hole is there. I could probably mix up a little more clear epoxy and help fill that to give it more support. But that's what I'm going to do. But there's a gap there. I taped around this to keep the epoxy from getting on the bottom of the die. So I'm going to have to push some more epoxy down there. But you can see what I'm going to do. This is going to work perfectly. It'll screw down on my shift lever, and I can set the jam nut against this. But yeah, I'm going to have to put a little more epoxy on that. But you see what I did, and I'm looking forward to getting that put on. But I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to have to add a little more epoxy to help fill that gap. Otherwise, I'm afraid that if I don't have a decent amount of filler in here, that shifting will put some wear on this insert, and it may fail in the future. So anyway, this is where I'm at, and hopefully I can get some more epoxy mixed up and get it set up, and I'll update this video once I have it done and ready to install. All right, I'll be back in just a little bit with an update. All right. Now you can any shift knob that has has an adapter and set screws, you should be able to drill it out and replace that with an adapter that will fit your shift knob. Now, the good thing about this is this is securely epoxied in place. No need to screw it in to an existing larger threaded adapter, because this is the one I know that fits. So once I get the epoxy laid in there and let it cure, I should be good to go. All right, we're back with my die shift knob, and I've got it completed. And this isn't the prettiest job. I added epoxy to this hole here. You can see this kind of half or a crescent moon looking thing, dark spot. That was a hole. The adapter was much smaller than the original fitting that was in there, so I had to, after it was epoxied in, I filled the gap with more epoxy and let it cure. Now, so the fitting is very secure in there now, very, very secure. It won't budge. So I went to the Chevy just a few minutes ago, and I took off my original 8-ball shift knob and put on this die. Now I put the die on, and this is securely epoxied in place, and so I've screwed it down and set the jam nut, and I'm a little disappointed because it worked. It's great. It still feels good on the shifter. Good hand. You know, now it is basically about the same size as the 8-ball shift knob. So, but I'm disappointed, and I will tell you why. Because despite the work to get it really secure on my Hurst shifter, it doesn't look good. And I had it on there a while, drove it. It felt fine, but looking at it in the interior of the car, I just don't like the look of it. There's nothing wrong with the feel or the mount or anything. It just doesn't appeal to me. I like my 8-ball, I guess. So anyway, but I learned how to convert something to a shift knob. It just didn't look right, and that's not very scientific. But I did get it securely mounted, filled up the gap with epoxy, and so it's good to go. I just don't like it. I have no other real reason for removing it than it just doesn't look good to me. You know, it's funny because I've anticipated that this die would be a great shift knob, and it probably would. It's just between the die and my 8-ball. 8-ball gets it, and so 8-ball will remain as my go-to shift knob. Sometimes you have to go through projects like this to discern which is your preference. Now, a shift knob I don't have that I may get just because I like it is the standard white or off-white Hurst shift knob. And I've seen those. And so if I could get a 5-speed version of that venerable shift knob, I may get it just, you know, I had that on, oh gosh. I've run that shift knob on several cars. I had several manual shift cars. So anyway, and may will again. I need to find a 5-speed version of that. All right, guys. Well, you know, again, like I said earlier, in the market for a shift knob, don't pay too much. I have seen billiard balls, 8-balls. You can buy them for $9.95, and others will charge you $70.95 for them. So don't be snookered. Do your shopping. And I will tell you this, now this is a regulation size and probably weight. It does not have the 8 on the bottom like a regular, like a true standard billiard ball would have. So, and so, you can see there are billiard balls for sale everywhere on eBay. And does it matter if it has the 8 on the bottom or not? To me, no, because it's an 8-ball shift knob, and I don't give a damn because you have to drill through the bottom of it anyway. So on the shift knobs conversions I've seen, the only visible part of what was an 8 will be a little bit of the white on the with circle of white. That's because you drill through the 8 on the bottom. Anyway, let's see what see what you all come up with, and in your comments, what's your favorite shift knob? I mean, now I haven't even addressed T handles. I ran a T handle for a while on a Volkswagen I had, and it just it just didn't do it for me. I actually had a Hurst shifter on a Volkswagen, and it came with a T handle, and I ran it a while, but I like the ball. So what do you do about that? But what's your favorite? I've seen there's no shortage. You can get a Katana handle to be a shift knob. I mean, hey, what it's like 9 inches tall or something. And if I had a rice burner, had a high performance Japanese anything, I might consider that. But there's no shortage of shift knobs out there. The 8-ball, I've gotten used to it. I like the feel of it. Now there's some skull shift knobs and some other stuff. I'm not sure. I'm just old school, I guess. And like I said before, I'm not only just old school, I'm old. Do that with what you will. All right, that's it, guys. That's enough shifty business for today, pun intended. All right, have a great week, and I'll be back out here in the garage this week. Of course, I've got chores to do. I've got grass to mow, and I've got a zero turn that needs a little attention. Probably not a topic for the Shade Tree Garage. In fact, I may send that to the dealer since we're nearing the end of the mowing season, and get the blades sharpened and tune up the mower, blah, 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 All right, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time from here inside the Shade Tree Garage.